Hey friends, my name is Megan, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to Mustard Seed Homesteading, and for those that are back, I'm very glad to see you. What we're gonna do is take a look at just the backyard garden. Recently, I made the decision to do GREENSTALK garden tours once a month because between my driveway and my backyard, it's just too much to show you in one video a week. And so today I'm gonna focus on showing you all my seedlings that I'm getting herded off for the backyard garden. Also gonna share with you how I plan to get my beds ready for planting. And I'm super excited. We started building a new structure in the back and I cannot wait to show you guys. So let's get started. All right, friends, well, I'm actually starting from over here because this garage door as well as the other two down there are just full of starts. So I'm going to start from here and I'm going to work my way down. So over here are all of my peppers. I pretty much just have peppers and tomatoes. These are a bunch of different varieties from sweet peppers to hot peppers. I have quite a bit, you guys. But what I recently started doing is planting 2 pepper plants per square. It actually worked really well last year, so I am able to condense a lot of these peppers when I plant them into the bed. But so far, so good, and I cannot wait to get these planted. I miss peppers so much. And then over here is all of my basil. So I do plant a lot of basil for various reasons. One being that I just love the herbs, but they're a great companion plant. So I have that, I have it for that as well. But the Tulsi Holy Basil, we use this a lot for tea. So having this basil and then the other basils for companion planting has just really worked well in my garden, which is why you see a sea of basil right now. And something I want to show you, these little basil plants, they have little dwarf-sized basil plants. They're the cutest little basil plants ever. But what's nice about these is you can stick this in a little pot on your patio and then just pick off pieces of basil for cooking. It really is such a great little compact type of basil. The one variety is the, let's see here, the dwarf. So this is the dwarf Greek basil. And then I want to say this one, which actually doesn't look very dwarf sized to me. If you can see that. Let me see what the name of this one is. This is a piccolini basil. Now, it's supposed to actually be really small. This is the first time I'm actually growing it this year, but they look pretty big. So I would say if you want a dwarf-sized basil, this one is definitely the one to grow. And then these little two guys, I've shared this before, but this is the ashwagandha. Look at how big it's gotten since the last time I showed you. And then this is my other mullein, but wait till you see the other one that I bought last year in the backyard garden. It's gigantic. So I probably will be putting these in some bags. I just don't know when yet. It'll be soon though. All right, you guys, so you can see that I have a ton of tomatoes. Way too many. And these are such a mix. Yeah, these are my cherry tomatoes. They're already kind of falling over, so I'm going to be planting these first. A lot of these are cherry tomatoes, plum tomatoes, just your regular sandwich sized tomatoes, but there is a lot of tomatoes. So I'm going to be just planting the ones that I need in the beds, and then obviously anything that's left over, I'll either be finding them a home somewhere in my garden or giving them to friends, family, neighbors, because I definitely have a lot of tomatoes. And these lovely lush little green leaves that you see are the yucca. This is like a summer root crop, and I plan to put these in the buckets up there once the kale is done. So probably in the next week or two, I'm going to be doing some serious planting with all of my tomatoes, the rest of these, as well as all those peppers and basil. These little tomato plants that you see over here are actually the Martha F1 tomato plants that I overwintered. I do not overwinter tomato plants, but I tried doing it just for the heck of it because I overwintered pepper plants. And last year, these were the very first plants that gave me tomatoes. So I'm testing it out again this year and seeing how well they do. There's so much down here I want to show you guys, but I have to go in the backyard garden. But I will say, I'll share a little bit about the bags that are on the driveway before we go up there. So these are all of my overwinter pepper plants. Now, I haven't seen any growth on these other ones, so I'm not really sure what's going on. Now, I know that we are now getting more consistent warm weather, so I'm going to give it some time. Now, this one is doing amazing. This one is also growing a pepper plant on it already. So I am happy to see that this one is growing. This one is actually my bell pepper plant, and I believe that one is too. And then I want to say, I think 3 of these are the poblanos, and then I had a lemon hot jalapeno and a regular jalapeno. If they don't come back, it's not the end of the world. I clearly have a lot of pepper plants, but I hope they do. So hopefully they come back. I don't really see much yet, but I'm gonna give it some time. And this little lovely blueberry tree is just sprouting so many blueberries, you guys. I cannot wait to start harvesting all of these blueberries. And I just have these in grow bags. These are 15-gallon grow bags. This is the 3rd year, I believe, I've had these. The first year was, I didn't get like a ton. Second year, I got a good amount. But this year, both of these plants are doing phenomenal, and I'm really happy to see them. I cannot wait to harvest these with the kiddos. And something I do want to share too, so these are my lemon trees, and then these 2 are my lime trees. So I recently switched out their bags because the bags that they were in, I just was not happy with them. These are the Vivo Sun bags. I really do love the Vivo Sun brand. Out of all of the bags I've ever bought, Vivo Sun, and they're the only bags I have listed in my description and my Amazon products that I like. They're the only bags that have not failed me. And so I went ahead and I put them in some new bags, and I fertilized them, and look at all the little green lushy leaves. I'm really happy to see that. They're starting to grow a lot of new green growth on them because I've neglected these. I've gotten lemon and limes off of these trees, but I have not put as much attention to these as I would like to because I've been so busy growing my garden and just learning how to garden that I haven't really taken care of these as well. So this year is my goal to really focus on these trees more. It's so hard not to talk about my green stalks right now, but I'm going to focus on the bags over here on the retaining wall, which actually we are going to harvest these 2 romaine lettuces on the side. But these trellises that you see with these large bags have been my favorite combination so far when it comes to trellises for these bags. But you can see how much is growing just in this one bag. So I have 3 lettuces, I have a bunch of snap peas, I have onions, and I think that's about it. But I put a lot in there, and they're already starting to show some flowers for some peas. And I'm really happy to see that. Now my goal is, I've shared this before, is to plant some bushing cucumber seeds in here, which I'll probably be doing in the next week or 2. I did plant some cucumber seeds up there, and I'm going to show you because they've already sprouted. But so far, I do like what I did here. This was my first year of combining snap peas with onions and romaine, and so far I'm really liking this. And then finally, the rest of the bags have all been planted against this retaining wall. So I'm going to show you briefly, and then we're going to go in the backyard. So this bag is just leeks. I threw some dill in there as well as some arugula. And then the same with this. A lot of these bags are just snap peas, onions, leeks, and maybe some spinaches and arugula. And the reason why I put them in these bags, even though the driveway gets the most sun, is because the retaining wall is here. It gets enough sun, but it also shades it, so it allows like cooler weather crops like snap peas, arugula, and spinach to not have too much heat or sun on them. And I've just noticed that it's done really well. So I'm testing it out this year to see how I like it. I know I grew leeks in these bags last year and they did really, really well. So that's why I planted the leeks again in here. I'm also taking note of different varieties. Like for instance, this spinach, I want to say is the Nobel spinach. And it looks like it's gonna flower on me. Versus this one over here, I keep feeling little raindrops on my head, is the Space F1, and this one does not look like it's gonna flower on me. So I am taking notice of different varieties and how well they do. And so I'm keeping an eye on that as well, because varieties do make a huge difference. And then I finally planted the turmeric in these 2 bags and the ginger in these 2 bags. So I'm just waiting for them to pop through. I'm so excited. They're the most beautiful tropical looking plants and they do so well in grow bags. And then here's another bag where I just stuck a bunch of leeks and dill. And then I did some green, like I said, spinach or arugula right in the middle. And then I did add a few zinnias as well, right in the middle as a companion plant. Now, since I'm already down here, I'm gonna actually show you the soil that I'm gonna be using this year as part of preparing these beds for all those starts that you saw. Now, I am a huge Bacto soil fan, which is these bags right here. I did get a few more of the Bacto light soil, and I do love this soil. But I do notice in my beds, I have a lot of roly-polies and millipedes, and I'm kind of wondering if the wood chips that are in the Bacto, because there's quite a bit of wood chips there, not a ton. It's a really good sandy mix, but there is a good amount, and I've noticed this one doesn't have as much. So I figured, you know what, this year I'm gonna try this in the beds as well as my black cow compost. I love that stuff so much, and just see if there's a difference. So once some of the veggies, and I'll show you those in a second, are done growing, or if I have a moment to fill those beds and they're not done, they're gonna get out of there, and I'm gonna start filling and prepping the beds with this so I can start getting all those peppers and tomatoes and everything in the beds. And then also look at all the herbs down here. I'm going to be doing a separate video on the herbs down here just because I don't really put too much attention on here because, like I said, there's just too much going on. But I have these right outside my door, and I plan to add a few more starts as well as some new seeds and new plants in here. And I want to show you guys when I finish doing that. Now that we're in the backyard garden, I did want to quickly show this to you. So this is the other method of growing potatoes that I'm trying other than the GREENSTALK. I just added more soil and straw to top it off. These are the VivoSun 3 20-gallon squares. So far, I really like these bags so much, you guys, that I ordered another pack of them. But what I did was I put it on a pallet, so it was kind of like a little potato patch, kind of. And so far, so good. I mean, we're gonna see what happens. I ultimately want to grow them in a raised bed, and I very well may do that at some point, but for right now, I'm gonna try these out and see how these work. I'm going to actually start right here this time because I finally got around to planting all of my dahlias. So these really large pots that I have one here, there, and then there's one in the middle, and then there's one at the other corner. I try to have flowers on all corners of my garden. And so I planted dahlias in the really large ones, and then as you see here, so last year I had a really hard time holding the dahlias back because they get really big. And it was my first time growing it, so I had no idea that they got that big. I used bamboo sticks and sticks from the woods, and while it looked really pretty, it still was just really messy. So I found these on Amazon, and if these work out really well, I will list them below for you guys to look at them and purchase them if you would like to. I just want something to hold them back so that they don't fall over, because I lost flowers from them falling over, and I'm hoping that this is going to work out really well. And then I did find some smaller ones. Now, a lot of the smaller pots, I planted peonies in them last year. It is on and off raining, you guys, so I'm trying to do this video while it's like it was raining right now, and then it stopped, and now it's starting to rain again. So I'm going to try to get everything in this video. But these two have some peonies growing, and I think a third one is, and then those two are actually growing peonies. But there was 3 of them that wasn't, so I stuck in some zinnias. It doesn't look like much right now, but I stuck in some zinnias and some gorgeous snapdragons. So I'm looking forward to seeing how those bloom. All right, so with regards to some of these beds, so this one is definitely one that I'm going to be putting peppers in. I'm going to fill this with soil and black cow and get this ready in the next week or two and plant the peppers now that they've been hardening off. And then this last week, it doesn't look like much, and I'm going to be inserting a quick video and snapshots of everything that I harvested in some of these beds. So you can see a lot of the Swiss chard that I had planted in here is all gone. So I harvested all the Swiss chard. Now I've left the onions, and I left a few veggies that are still growing. You can see a lot of the Romanesco broccoli is in here still. Now, some of it has flowered, so I'm definitely going to be harvesting that, because I do eat the leaves as well as the stalk, because it's really delicious. It's not just the florets that are really good. And if it hasn't flowered too much, typically I will just eat the broccoli anyways if there's not a huge bug infestation in there. And so we're going to be harvesting these as well. And because I've never grown Romanesco, I cannot tell if that's actually flowering on me or if that's the way it's supposed to grow. They're all growing very differently. You can see how that one is growing. And then there's a really gigantic one in another bed, and it's not even showing anything. So I definitely learned something from growing Romanescos. I am more than likely going to grow them in the bags back there next year. I also want to show you these real quick. So this last week, what I did was I came in here and I planted a couple of different varieties of cucumber seeds, and you can see they all germinated really well. I am going to come in and snip one out so that there's just one. And what I do is I love to plant my cucumbers against this long trellis. They did really well last year, and so I'm doing it again this year. But because I have all these wonderful snap peas, I didn't want to wait, because now is the time to grow cucumbers. So what I did was in between the snap peas and kind of a little further away, but still before this water grid, because these are my planting squares, I planted cucumber seeds. So while these are growing and I'm harvesting all of the snap peas, I can have my cucumbers growing at the same time. And then because peas, like green beans, they fix nitrogen into the soil. So like I've said this before, I'm just gonna snip them when they're done at the soil line and just leave the roots in the bed into the soil to feed it, and then just take the dead snap peas off the trellis so that the cucumbers can grow. At the end of the bed, I don't show this a whole lot, but I have these 2 grow bags, and I'm sorry if you hear squeaking, it's because it is really muddy. It's been raining, plus I watered the beds the other day or yesterday, and so yeah, it's a little noisy, so I'm really sorry for that. But at the end of the bed, I have these 2 really large bags, and I planted some kale plants in here. They were so tiny, and look at how large and lush they've gotten. Now, I have noticed that with the insect netting, it's done better than this one that has no insect netting, and for 2 reasons: no squirrel damage, because this is covering it, but also I think it helps with the bug pressure. And then look at this little lemon balm volunteer plant right at the base of the bag. I just love it. Before we go over here and grab a couple of broccoli heads, let's go ahead and harvest a couple of snap peas on these trellises. So this trellis my husband built between the 2 wood beds that he built, and I really love this trellis. I think it does very, very well. I've grown snap peas on here, I've grown cucumbers on here, and I've just been really impressed with it. So let's go ahead and let's harvest some snap peas. Now on this side are all of the broccolis. Some of them are starting to head. A few of them have already headed. I am going to harvest a couple here, even though they're not fully, you know, super large, because it is starting to get really warm here. We're hitting like 80-degree days, and obviously brassicas don't like heat, so I'm going to harvest what I can, because I don't just eat the florets, I also eat the stalk as well as the leaves, because it's really delicious when you saute it, cast iron, all the good stuff, salt, onion, garlic, it's delicious. So I am going to go ahead and harvest a few of these, and then all in between are the onions and the shallots. They're all doing really good. I have a feeling these are going to stay in here even when I go ahead and plant my green beans once these are done, because I don't harvest the onions and shallots until later on. So I'm going to go ahead and harvest a couple of broccoli. Look at this gorgeous bouquet of broccoli. I am loving it. I also want to add that this year, with regards to growing broccoli in this bed, now last year I did the same thing. I had grown broccoli and cauliflower, and for the most part it did really well, but there was a lot of insect pressure. And what I did differently this year, one is the insect netting. I do think that this has helped a lot, but I also added a whole lot more onion and shallots. For instance, I put an onion on each corner, and then I also filled the edges of the bed. Now, I have not seen any major bug pressure issues, maybe a few holes here and there, but look at how beautiful this looks. And we've been having some pretty hot temperatures, and typically when that happens, the bugs come out and they don't stop, and they feast on all of this a ton. So this is what I'm noticing this year, and so far I'm liking what I'm seeing, which means I'm probably going to do this again next year. This bed right next to the wood bed still has all the carrots. I thinned these out a couple weeks ago, and so far so good, you guys. I'm just hoping that I can get some carrots quickly, because I want to plant this whole bed with peppers in the next week or two. Worst case scenario, if the carrots aren't ready to harvest, I'll just plant some peppers in the opposite squares, and then either hold off on the other squares for the other pepper plants, or just plant something in place of the carrots once I harvest them. But so far, you guys, it's looking really good. Now, I did do 9 varieties to see which one I liked the most, and when I insert the video of me harvesting from some of these beds, I did harvest the carrots on the side. So those were the Napoli F1s. These were the Scarlet Nantes, and I loved the Napoli F1s, which these are the Napoli F1s. You can see how lush and beautiful they look compared to, now granted there's a whole lot more here, there's only 9 per square here, but you can see which ones are doing really well versus the ones that are like, you know, so-so. So we'll have to see how this goes. And then this is what I want to show you as far as what I did for cleaning out a lot of the beds. So between this bed and that bed, there was a lot of bug pressure. I had romaine, I had lettuce, I had a lot of Swiss chard, I had broccolis, but you guys, this big Romanesco plant is gigantic. This is the biggest one I have in my garden, and it still has not fully headed. Now, this is the first time I'm growing it. I'm not really sure if it just takes a long while, but in growing the Romanesco in here as well as over there, I think I know exactly what I'm going to be doing next year. And so I'm taking a lot of notes in my planner. And what I ended up doing when I cleaned out the beds was I kept the cabbages that are growing. So these are the Jersey Wakefield cabbages. This one is, as well as this one. And I'm just waiting a little bit while the tomatoes and everything are hardening off for them to form a head. But when I'm ready to go plant those tomatoes, whatever is not done, I'm going to pluck it and just eat what I can from what is left in here. And then I do have the cilantro at the edges. Those are doing pretty good, but I think last year they did better, but I think because everything was covering them, they didn't grow as quick. So I'm hoping I'll get a little bit of cilantro before I have to plant the tomatoes. So here's a little clip of me harvesting the carrots earlier this week. And this particular variety that we're going to harvest is the Napoli F1. And you guys, as you can see, look at the size of that carrot, minus the two little ones, which still tasted really good. But as you see, when I start to harvest the carrots, I'm actually quite impressed with the size of the carrots, considering that it was grown on the near the edge of the bed. I'm very happy and will probably be doing this again. And especially this variety in particular, I feel like the Napoli F1 has not disappointed. I do have this variety planted in the other bed as well. I have a little bit more than what's planted here. So I'm looking forward to harvesting that bed as well. Now, this variety that we're harvesting is the Scarlet Nantes, and these were planted on the other side of the bed. And while I wasn't really impressed with them, I'm still happy with what I harvested. Now, I may try this variety again. I'm not really sure, but either way, I am really liking the idea, like I said, that I can grow some carrots and use up that little bit of space so that I'm growing as much food as possible. Now you'll see this last carrot is a pretty good size, which is why I might try them again. I'm not sure. All right, friends, well, here's everything that I harvested out of the garden a couple of days prior. I am really happy with all of the Swiss chard that I was able to harvest. I have been cooking this in the cast iron with olive oil, some onions, some garlic, and some sausage, and it is absolutely delicious. I've also been juicing, which I have been enjoying that as well. And so instead of using kale leaves or spinach leaves, I will be using some Swiss chard in place of that. And then I was able to harvest a little bit of romaine lettuce. There's actually still more out there. And then the carrots, you guys, they were absolutely delicious and I'm very happy with them. And then these are actually some Swiss chard stalks. The leaves weren't that great, so I kept the stalks and I'll just cook those up. And then I was able to also harvest some beautiful chamomile. I'm trying to harvest as much as I can and preserve them. And then there's a ton of snap peas up here as well. I do not have time to harvest them right now because I don't want it to rain on me again. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, here we go. With that greenery in the background, sometimes it's hard to catch these in focus. But these are the telephone peas, and then these are the, I'm always forgetting the name of these. I don't know why. Sugar magnolia peas. They're like this really pretty purple. Let me see if I can, that's not good lighting. Let me see if I could. Right there. Very pretty purple. And this is the first time I'm growing them, and so far I'm really liking them, but they grow really tall. I mean, not that this trellis is huge, but let me see. My head is to right here, so it's pretty big. I do have to get a ladder to get some of them, which is another reason why I'm not going to harvest them right this second, but so far so good. And then in this trellis, or right here next to the side of the trellis, I will be planting, I'm pretty sure, my Kentucky Wonder green beans. Now, I did think about doing this as well, because the new structure that I'm going to show you guys here in a minute is going to allow me to trellis. I do most of my plum tomatoes in here, and I did think about using this trellis for the tomatoes for support because, man, they get so tall. And I don't think we're gonna have time to do cow panels in here. So I wanted to do cow panels in here between some of the squares. My husband and I had some ideas for support because I love the bamboo sticks. I do love using the sticks, but after a while, you guys, they start to fall over and there's just not support, or as good of support as I would hope for. So I did think about putting the Kentucky Wonder green beans somewhere else and then using this as part of the trellis for some of the tomatoes that I would plant in these squares right here. I haven't made up my mind yet, but I am thinking about doing that. Now this is doing very beautiful. So I did cilantro two different varieties on this side as well as that side, and this one right here is the slow bolt cilantro. And so far, you guys, it's looking really beautiful and I'm liking it a whole lot. So I might be growing this again next year, and I actually might just grow that moving forward. I'm not really sure. That one did really good last year. I just think it was overcrowded, and that's why it's not as full grown as this, because they were both planted at the same time. Now, there's a lot going on in here. I have dill growing. The funny thing is, I had planted this dill in the fall, and now it's starting to grow. So, and this kale plant is doing really good. This calendula is just gorgeous and amazing. But I do have to put tomatoes in here, so I'm gonna have to figure out what plants are gonna stay and what plants are gonna go. Look at this dill, it's gorgeous. It's doing so beautiful. Now, and then here's the other cilantro too. This one's doing pretty good. It's the Calypso cilantro. I think it's doing really well too. So it's worth planting again, in my opinion. Now, something I want to show you. So do you see this? So I had done a video back in the winter time, and I had shown these hoops that I got, as well as those thicker ones in the wood bed. Now, here's my opinion. I don't have these. I don't believe I did. Because usually I don't like to list anything unless I know that I really, really like it. But this hoop, I don't like it in this size bed. Because here's what I noticed. They're actually really good hoops, and I will use them, but I think I'm not going to use them in a smaller bed like this, because it's happened in this bed where this top part breaks, but in this bed where it was a lot wider, it didn't break. So I'm thinking because of the way it's arched a little too close or too tight, I think that's why that keeps happening, because it's not like we had a huge storm and everything blew all over the place, because we had a really bad storm like a couple months ago, and that happened with these over here, and I can understand that. But there was no storm for this one. So I think that what I'm gonna be doing is not using these in the skinnier beds, but I'm going to use them in the larger beds. I can't help it. I had to get some dill. These are very exciting for me. I wanted to show these to you because I feel like the lettuces in these bags did amazing. And I think part of the reason it's doing so well is because of where they're positioned. So they're kind of covered by the bed, so they're not getting intense heat. I haven't had to cover these at all. I've had no squirrel damage with these. And you can see I have been cutting and coming back to get more lettuce, and it just keeps growing so beautifully. But look at these romaines. So if you have heard me before share in previous videos how gorgeous the heads of these lettuces are, look at how beautiful these are. And they actually get bigger than this, believe it or not. So you can compare it to the size of my hand. They're beautiful. Now, there is one here that looks like it's kind of gonna flower. You can see the difference, how it's starting to go taller versus this one looks more of like a regular romaine. So before that flowers or gets bitter on me, I'm gonna harvest this so we can eat it, and I'm gonna leave the rest. But this is by far my favorite, and it does very well in my zone. I had to go ahead and pick some red sail lettuce. It just looked too pretty not to, but it has been so worth growing in these bags. This bed I have shared before. I had taken out all the Brussels sprouts that just did not grow for me, but I did manage to keep the leaves, and I've been using that to eat. They've been actually very, very delicious. Now I've left the onions. Some of them are actually flowering on me, which I really don't mind because I would love to save onion seed from this. And I want to say there's another one that's doing the same thing. So again, the same with this. As soon as I'm ready to start filling these beds up, I'm just going to pluck everything out or keep whatever's in there if it can still grow. This was the other bed that I plucked all of the chard, Swiss chard, romaine lettuce out of the beds. I did leave the Savory Perfection cabbage. I'm hoping that heads. This is the first time I'm ever growing it. It is really large, so I know not to grow it in one of these squares over here, at least a corner square or in a grow bag in the back. And then I do have 2 mammoth red cabbages. They seem to be growing, but I'm not really sure. If they don't start forming a head soon, I'm going to have to get rid of them. Now, this is a stonehead cabbage. My favorite, other than the Jersey Wakefield, you guys. This has been, you can see there's a little bit of pest damage, but I did check the other leaves and they didn't get in there all the way. But I am so happy with these cabbages. I am definitely going to be growing these next year. The last little bit is what I want to show you back here, because you guys, look at all of what's growing in those bags. But before we go back there, look at the structures that we've been building. I'm so excited about these. So as I've always shown in my videos, I have used pallets that we got free from Azure. And then my husband put a board here to level it. But one of the boards, let me see, I can probably show you real quick because it was really going bad. And we knew that they were going to start to rot and go bad. I mean, it's quite obvious. You can see how rotted and just lovely it looks. But what my husband decided to do was to use thicker, better quality wood. And you can see, because our land slopes down, what he did was he built legs, you know, obviously from small to larger, to level it out. Not only is it better on my back, at least here, down there I still have to bend, but it's better on my back and I don't have to worry about the wood going bad as quick. Not that I would have cared to keep getting the Azure pallets, because there's always going to be pallets, but he wanted to do something a little bit sturdier. And then he came up with the idea of putting the weave fabric over the wood to then allow this wood to stay good for longer, because you can see the wood beds here, even though these are going on, I want to say, our 2nd or 3rd year, and they're still going strong, but at some point we're going to need to change that. So he had the idea, because obviously I water the buckets and the water's just going to keep dripping and dripping through over the wood. He had the idea of covering with this. And then what we're going to do is put a big trellis in between. I am so excited about this. I'm really happy that he had the idea to do this and he came up with this. So this is a new structure. We haven't finished it yet. I'm probably going to move those on here and then we'll cover that one with the weave fabric. And then he did buy the materials and we're going to be putting the trellis up here soon. All right, we're going to start from here and then I'm going to go over there and sit down and show you the full harvest. So this over here is growing beautiful Swiss chard. Everything is doing really, really good. I'm not going to harvest anything from here today, but I'm going to wait for a few more pieces to get larger and then we're going to harvest that. Now, I did ask my husband, since he was building these, I'm like, these are so pretty, because I actually shared this a couple of tours that we were going to get these propped up, and I took the other one and I put the potatoes on there because I asked him, can we build one long ways this way? And so we're going to probably be doing that as well. And then right here I planted the rest of my sweet potato slips. So the other ones are in the green stalks, but I planted the rest of these, and the reason you see rocks under here is just to kind of level it. I have a roller underneath it and then I have a few rocks under the bags just to prop them up so that they weren't leaning forward on the ground. And then this is what I wanted to show you guys, because if you remember, I had shared with you all these little baby starts. I overstuffed so much Swiss chard in a lot of these bags, and I was fine with it because I was hoping that I can just harvest little baby leaves, and look at how gorgeous everything looks. So I will be harvesting a lot from here soon, but here's the idea that I had. So because a lot of this is right by the woods and I have quite a bit of trees up here, this right here would be perfect for me to plant most of my spring plants. And then what I'll do is leave the beds for the summer plants, so that way I don't have to wait for some of them to grow, or if they weren't done growing, I cut them short because I have to get my tomatoes and stuff in. So this year I learned that I'm probably going to be focusing my spring growing back here and then keep the beds open, because I think everything's doing really good here. It gets just enough of shade and sun for these to grow. Look at this, you guys. Look at how beautiful that is. That just makes my heart so happy. It really, really does. Because all this stuff, it costs money. Now, it costs money to put a garden together, but you know, these grow bags I'm gonna have for as long as I can. They haven't gone bad on me. The pallets were for free back here, and I'm excited. Now, this is the other mullein that I was telling you about that I bought last year. It's doing really well. It's gigantic. I probably should harvest some of these leaves, but it's doing very well in that grow bag. And then here are the rest of some of the plants, and there is thunder in the background, so sorry for all that noise if you hear it. And then look at that. Now we are coming into the lettuces. I think some of these are cabbages. I can't remember. I think they might be. I don't think those are broccoli. But if they don't head, I'm gonna, well, I don't know. I might leave them in there, I might not, it just depends. But the lettuce is doing really, really well. I'm very happy and I'm very pleased with all the lettuce. And these are doing really well. Here's some more of the romaine that we harvested earlier. And then surprisingly, you guys, the Napa cabbage seems to be doing okay. Now, I have had a really hard time growing Napa cabbage, so if they grow back here, then I know that this spot is the best for cool weather crops for spring. And it's just, everything is just growing so beautifully. Now, there are a few in these last two pallets that aren't doing the best. So I'm gonna keep an eye on some of these. A lot of these were some cauliflower starts and just some radishes and beets and stuff. So I'm not really sure what's gonna come of that, but here's some more lettuce. This is doing really, really good. Lettuce seems to do very well in grow bags for me, which makes me really happy. So a lot of these are radishes. I probably just need to give them a little bit more time. Mixed in with some lettuces. There's that red mammoth cabbage. Don't think it's gonna head. I have a hard time with red cabbages. I don't know why, but I seem to have a hard time. But overall, it's really good. All right, friends, before it starts to rain and thunderstorm on me, let's go ahead and see what we harvested today. Well, the first thing we harvested is a ton of broccoli. Even though some of it flowered, oh my gosh, look at those florets. They're so beautiful. But even though some of them flowered, they're still edible. They're still really good. Now, if the whole thing was flowered, it might taste a bit bitter, but I think I got this one in time. We'll see. But look at those other little florets. Aren't they so pretty? And I'm telling you guys, try sauteing the stalks and the leaves. It tastes so delicious. And then you guys, look at this. I am so excited about getting all this salad. I know that, oh, go away, fly. Sorry. It's like in my face. But I love this time of the year where I can just grab some fresh lettuce out of my backyard garden. Now, what I've learned this year is the spots that I can grow them in, they did really well this year. So now I know the spots that do well, and I can plant them in there again next year. And then of course our snap peas, you guys, we're gonna have a lot of snap peas to harvest in the next couple weeks. I'm really excited to get these. These are so good as a snack, sauteing. They're overall such a great veggie, but I'm really happy with the harvest. Well, friends, I hope that you are enjoying your spring gardening right now. I know for me, I am. It is a lot of work right now, but I'm enjoying all the wonderful abundance of food that is coming in and the busyness of getting the summer garden ready as well, because it will be here before you know it. But I appreciate you all stopping by, and I really look forward to seeing you guys next time. And always remember, friends, be encouraged, stay encouraged, and always stay inspired. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.